Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up over the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs a meeting with chief ministers on West Asia crisis, reviews preparedness of states to deal with the war's fallout. India slashes excise on petrol and diesel by 10 Indian rupees a litre each. Export duties hiked on diesel and aviation fuel to prioritize domestic needs. Lockdown rumours dismissed. Crude nears $110 a barrel. Global stocks crash as hopes dim of a quick West Asia truce. Israel says it will escalate its strikes on Iran as Trump extends his deadline on hitting Tehran's energy targets pending a deal. And India clears proposals worth $25 billion to augment its military forces, including their strike and air defense capabilities. First up, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding a meeting with chief ministers through a video link to review state-level preparedness amid the ongoing West Asia conflict. The discussions focus on coordinated action and synergy. The meeting comes after the all-party meeting chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was held on Wednesday in New Delhi. Well, for more on this key meeting, let me take you across to DD India's Akhilesh Suman, who's joining us live. Akhilesh, good evening. What can you tell us about what is being discussed in this meeting? Is it about ensuring that it's an all-for-one and one-for-all kind of a response to what's been happening in West Asia in terms of managing the situation at home?
Gautam, detailed outcome of the meeting will come very soon because still meeting is going on. I'm in touch with the related officials. But whatever we have been told about the meeting that, this meeting is to create a situation that there should be no panic in the country. There should be no misinformation in the country about availability of either oil or gas or even LPG cylinders. This meeting is also to coordinate action between state governments and the center so that there should be no hoarding in the country and there should be no black marketing of anything. The meeting will also discuss the availability of essential items, everything that is dependent on oil and gas, and you can say that petrol and diesel, because most of the transportation takes place in the country by trucks or other vehicles. So in that situation, oil and gas is very important. So I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi is assuring the chief minister that there is no dearth of oil, there is no dearth of gas, but the only obstacle is that there are some people who are either creating panic out of fear or they are trying to do it out of, getting some benefit. So Prime Minister wants the Chief Minister to understand the situation. He also wants to apprise the Chief Ministers of different states about about what efforts center is taking about international situation. He wants to tell them about the status of Strait of Hormuz, that our LPG tankers will come again, which are stuck inside the Strait of Hormuz, and also that he wants to assure them that we have increased the domestic production of oil, also domestic production of LPG, and also we are importing oil, crude oil from different more countries, like we were earlier doing import of crude from 27 countries. Now we are doing from 41 countries. So all these things, I think he wants to apprise chief ministers himself, so that there should be no confusion in the chief ministers. As you know, that chief ministers hold the administration of the state. They are responsible for law and order in the state. They are also responsible for the whole safeguarding the delivery mechanism in the state. So in that way, this meeting is quite important. And one of the best thing, that Gautam, that chief ministers of those states who are opposition states like Congress Chief Minister of Telangana, Revant Reddy, he is present in the meeting. Hemant Soren of Jharkhand, who is from JMM, he is present in the meeting. That Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu from Himachal Pradesh, Chief Minister, he is present in the meeting. Bhagwant Singh Mann of Punjab Chief Minister, he is present in the meeting. So I think this is a very productive meeting in a way that the way Prime Minister was telling in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha that let us work like a team India. So it is team India, it is whole of the government approach, and also it is whole of the country approach that he wants to, he is apprising the Chief Minister.
Yes, how vital is this kind of effort, and also the efforts that the government of India has been making along with the states earlier as well to ensure that everything works precisely like clockwork, to ensure that this situation is tackled. It's not just about supplies and prices, it's about the messaging as well, isn't it?
It's very important, that it's very important to spread the positive message in such situation when the whole world is undergoing a crisis. And as you know that there are many countries in the world who have already declared energy emergency, but India has not. What we were being told that, we have crude stock for almost more than 2 months. So in that way, Prime Minister needs to tell the Chief Ministers that don't be afraid. We have enough energy resources and we are expanding our basket. Venezuela has opened, we are getting crude from Venezuela, we are getting crude from USA now, we are getting from Australia. So in that way, I think it's very important messaging. One of the important things that, Prime Minister also wants to tell the Chief Ministers, I think, that, some people are spreading the rumor or they are afraid or maybe they just, understand or think that there will be lockdown. So I think Prime Minister also wants to tell them that this is not a situation of lockdown. This is a situation to confront the whole challenge, in a united way, in a wholesome way, so that the country and the world should know that India is not divided in this point of time. Political division is one thing, but the country's, unity is one thing. The needs of the people, safeguarding the businesses, safeguarding the institutions, all these are related to, this crisis of oil and gas. So
Certainly.
I think this is very important positive narrative that the Prime Minister wants to set among the countrymen and countrywomen.
Certainly. We'll take you on board once again, Akhilesh, as and when that meeting concludes and we have more information about what was discussed. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being. Now, the West Asia conflict continues to escalate, entering a critical and increasingly volatile phase. With military tensions rising, diplomatic efforts underway, and fears of a wider regional spillover growing, the situation remains complex and fast evolving. Here's more in this report.
The West Asia conflict is now entering its 5th week with no signs of de-escalation. Tensions are mounting, threats are sharpening, and the risk of a wider regional fallout is growing by the day. Israel has warned it will intensify strikes on Iran after continued missile attacks, signaling a sharp escalation in the conflict.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and I warned the Iranian terror regime to stop the missile fire directed at Israel's civilian population. Despite the warnings, the firing has continued, and therefore IDF strikes in Iran will escalate and expand to additional targets and areas that assist the regime in building and operating weapons used against Israeli civilians. They will pay heavy and increasing prices for this war crime.
Even as tensions rise, US President Donald Trump has delayed a decision on targeting Iran's energy assets, saying negotiations to end the war are going very well. Meanwhile, Tehran has accused Washington of carrying out a calculated strike on an Iranian school, calling it one of the deadliest attacks since the conflict began.
Among the most harrowing manifestations of this aggression was the calculated, phased assault on Shajarat Tayyebe Elementary School in the city of Minab, south of Iran, where more than 175 students and teachers were slaughtered in cold blood.
The United Nations has demanded accountability. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk has called for a swift and transparent investigation, stressing that justice must be delivered for the victims.
In the case of this coup, the onus is on those who carried out the attack to investigate it promptly, impartially, transparently, and thoroughly, to determine the facts and lay the basis for accountability. Senior US officials have said the strike is under investigation. I call for that process to be concluded as soon as possible and for its findings to be made public. There must be justice for the terrible harm done.
In a major escalation, Iran's Revolutionary Guards have warned that shipping linked to Israeli or American allies will not be allowed, declaring the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed, with reports of vessels already being turned back.
3 container ships of different nationalities moved towards the designated corridor for authorized vessels. They were warned by the IRGC Navy and turned back. The IRGC Navy announced that the Strait of Hormuz is closed and any transit through the strait will face a firm response. All shipping to and from ports of allies and supporters of the US and Israel is prohibited, regardless of destination or route.
On another front, Israeli military buildup near the Lebanon border has raised fresh alarm. Israel says it plans to carve out a buffer zone in southern Lebanon, raising fears of a wider ground conflict with Hezbollah. With military, diplomatic, and economic tensions all intensifying, the West Asia conflict is fast becoming a global flashpoint, which seems to be volatile with every passing day. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, ever since the West Asia conflict began, India has been taking consistent measures to not only ensure fuel supplies, but also to protect domestic consumers from the impact of spiking global crude oil and gas prices. Friday saw the government slashing excise taxes on both petrol and diesel by 10 Indian rupees a litre on each of these fuels, hiking fuel export duties to prioritise domestic needs and keeping pump prices at the same level. Here's a report on how the Indian government has ensured that India remains an oasis of energy security and stable fuel prices.
Uncertainty over the West Asia conflict has spiked global oil and gas prices. Brent crude futures reached $110 a barrel level on Friday. But the Indian government has taken fresh measures to shield people from feeling the pinch of the spiking fuel prices. It slashed excise duties on petrol and diesel to protect domestic consumers and imposed higher duties on diesel and aviation fuel exports. The Finance Ministry reduced the special excise duty on petrol and diesel by 10 Indian rupees, taking it zero in case of the heavier fuel.
Today we have announced a decision whereby we will be giving support to the oil marketing companies so that they can import the material and not really, even if it is imported at a higher cost, the common citizen will not have to face any increase in the price of petrol or diesel.
India's direct taxes chief said the lowered petrol and diesel excise will hit the government revenues, but some of it will be made up by the higher export duties.
There have been changes in the excise duty on petrol and diesel for domestic consumption, where there has been a reduction by rupees 10 per litre by reducing the domestic special additional excise component of the current stack of levy that these products suffer when they are imported. Above steps have been taken largely to reduce the under-recoveries for the oil marketing companies, while at the same time ensuring that there is no increase in the prices of petrol and diesel for the consumers on account of the ongoing crisis.
The government's measures were hailed by leaders and the people. Home Minister Amit Shah lauded the step, saying that while many nations have hiked diesel and petrol prices, government's decision to reduce excise duty underscores its people-centric governance and sensitivity-led decision-making.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बहुत साफ तौर से बताया था कि पैनिक नहीं होना है, जमाखोरियों को चेतावनी दिया है, राज्य सरकारों को आह्वान किया है कि कोई इसमें होर्डिंग ना करे, पैनिक क्रिएट ना करे। भारत सरकार पूरी तरह से स्थिति का नियंत्रण में पूरा रखा हुआ है।
Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri also hailed Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Finance Minister's decision. Taking to social media, the minister also dispelled rumors of a lockdown in India as completely false, saying India has consistently demonstrated resilience in face of global uncertainties. Since the West Asia war broke out, the Indian government has engaged with multiple partners to ensure adequate fuel supplies throughout the country. Tankers have also reached Indian ports through the otherwise blockaded Strait of Hormuz. Friday even saw the government raising the allocation for commercial LPG supplies from 50 to 70% to prioritize labor-intensive industries.
इस वॉर की वजह से हमारे जो सप्लाईज है क्रूड का, एलपीजी का, एलएनजी का सब अफेक्ट हुए। क्रूड का प्राइस, बाकी प्रोडक्ट्स का प्राइस भी इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में बढ़ा, बट भारत सरकार ने कई स्तर पर कई इम्पोर्टेंट डिसीजंस लिए और इस सिचुएशन को बहुत इफेक्टिवली मैनेज करने के लिए।
At the same time, the government is also encouraging consumers to switch from gas cylinders to piped natural gas or PNG. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come in this edition of DD India News Hour. Balendra Shah takes oath as Nepal's Prime Minister. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar raises Global South's concerns over energy, fertilizer, food security at G7 foreign ministers meeting in Paris. And the Myanmar military signals leadership change ahead of presidential vote.
Let's step into the fight for the rights of nature, not in theory, but in practicality, and for nature to become our priority that is protected.
It's like a fertilizer power plant. So every time it eats, it digests the dead material, it breaks them down, and then it poops out the sands. Without this, the whole ecosystem here would be just broken rocks.
Recently, we had an Operation Coral Sheet wherein 10 Myanmarese poachers were caught. We had almost 800 kilograms of sea cucumber that was seized from them. We had an engine dinghy that was also seized. So it's an ongoing activity.
Here you can see this waterfall coming from the industrial area over there. This is industrial wastewater that flows directly into the river without any real treatment or purification.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Nepal has got a new Prime Minister as RSP's Balendra Shah has taken oath on Friday after a sweeping win in the March elections. His rise marks a major shift in Nepal's political landscape, with the young leader now facing the challenge of restoring stability in the Himalayan nation. DD India's Adami Mishra brings us this report.
Nepal's rapper-turned-politician Balendra Shah was sworn in as the country's Prime Minister on Friday, with President Ramchandra Paudel administering the oath. Shah became the Prime Minister after his Rashtriya Swatantra Party won 182 seats in the 275-member parliament in the March 5 elections. The 35-year-old leader has been tasked with restoring stability and creating jobs in Nepal, a nation long troubled by weak growth and fragile governments. In March elections, Rashtriya Swatantra Party's Balendra Shah defeated KP Sharma Oli in Chapa 5 constituency, securing over 15,000 votes. He rose to national prominence following the youth protests, emerging as a strong youth voice in the country. Shah is also the first Madhesi leader from the southern plains to become the Prime Minister, reflecting a shift in representation. An engineer turned rapper, his journey has been unconventional. As the mayor of Kathmandu, he focused on key civic issues like waste management and traffic reforms. Today, he stands as a young face challenging Nepal's traditionally aging political leadership. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to social media platform X to congratulate Balendra Shah and expressed India's willingness to strengthen bilateral ties with Nepal. For Nepal, a country that has seen 32 governments since 1990 without a full term, this moment is seen as a chance for political stability in the Himalayan nation. Adamya Mishra's report for DD India.
And for more on this major political shift in Nepal, let's take you across live to DD India's Shweta Singh in Kathmandu. Good evening, Shweta. Now, how significant is this moment of a 35-year-old Balen Shah becoming Nepal's Prime Minister with the kind of large mandate that he's got?
Gautam, you see, his election, his being chosen as the Prime Minister of Nepal, indicates the aspiration of generation Gen Z who wants a young face. They had got bored from the traditional political system and they chose Balendra Shah to represent their aspiration. So that way, you see, his mandate reflects the current generation and their aspiration. Gautam.
Certainly. Now, with overwhelming support of voters also comes overwhelming expectations. So, what do we know about Shah's agenda on Nepal's development, progress, jobs, countering corruption, his agenda basically?
Gautam, you see, RSP has come up with 100 days, 100 decision. So now each minister is being given 4 lawmakers who will be wading through all the policies and will try to coordinate between how government can use those policies. So one minister, 4 lawmakers will completely come to expectation of that 100 days, 100 policy agenda of RSP. So expecting that this will help achieve government's target in coming 100 days.
All right. And Prime Minister Modi, Shweta has also congratulated Balen Shah and expressed the wish to work with him for better India-Nepal ties. Now, what do we know about Balen Shah's perspective and plans on relations with India?
In fact, you see, now RSP is very clear, not taking Nepal as a buffer country between 2 big nations, China and India. What Balendra Shah party RSP is planning is to act like a vibrant bridge so that these 2 nations, India and China, they can use Nepal as a trading route. They can Nepal can become a big digital hub like we have in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune. So Nepal is planning in a similar manner. So they will be exhausting the market from India as well as China. So they have a big plan to use both the countries for their benefit.
Well, I hope that he lives up to people's expectations, especially the young generation, Gen Z's expectations. And I'm sure everyone in India wishes Nepal all the best with its new leadership. Thank you so much for joining us, Shweta. Now, European Economic Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis said on Friday that the EU's economy is at risk of stagflation due to a surge in energy prices triggered by the US-Israeli war on Iran. He said the outlook was clouded by profound uncertainty, but warned that the EU faced the risk of a stagflationary shock with slower growth coinciding with higher inflation.
For now, the outlook is clouded by profound uncertainty. But it is clear that we are at the risk of stagflationary shock. That is to say, a situation where a slower growth coincides with a higher inflation. This is the case even if the disruptions in energy supplies were to be relatively short-lived. In such a scenario, our analysis suggests that the EU growth in 2026 could be around 0.4 percentage points lower than projected in our autumn economic forecast, and inflation could be up to 1 percentage point higher.
The United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva held an urgent debate on Friday following Iran's request over a deadly airstrike on a school that reportedly killed 168 children. India's permanent representative Arindam Bagchi addressed the session, reaffirming India's commitment to peace and regional stability.
India remains deeply concerned at the evolving situation in West Asia. As a proximate neighbor with critical stakes in the security and stability of the region, these developments evoke great anxiety. India expresses profound grief over the loss of precious lives due to the attack on the Sharjah-e-Tayyib girls' school in Myanmar. India reiterates that there is no alternative to dialogue and diplomacy. India has consistently urged all sides to exercise restraint, avoid escalation, and prioritize the safety of civilians. India stands ready to support all constructive efforts aimed at de-escalation, fostering dialogue, and promoting lasting peace, stability, and security in West Asia.
G7 foreign ministers are meeting near Paris this week to discuss major global crises from Ukraine and West Asia to broader regional challenges. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is also part of these deliberations, highlighting India's priorities in global governance, trade and regional stability while engaging with partner countries. DD India's Diptanshu Kashyap has more.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar participated in the G7 foreign ministers meeting in France, highlighting India's priorities on governance reforms and economic resilience. At multiple sessions with partner countries, he spoke about the urgent need for UN Security Council reforms, more efficient peacekeeping, and stronger humanitarian supply chains, while raising Global South concerns on energy, food, and fertilizer security. He also underlined the importance of resilient trade corridors, including the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, and emphasized freedom of navigation alongside cooperation on critical minerals. The meeting brings together foreign ministers from the G7, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States, under the French presidency near Paris. Against a backdrop of fragile global security, the grouping is positioning itself as a forum for coordinated response to crises and economic risks. Discussions focused on major global flashpoints, including the conflicts in Ukraine and West Asia, as well as broader regional challenges in the Indo-Pacific, Africa, and Latin America. The ministers are also addressing global governance reform, strengthening multilateral cooperation, and tackling cross-border threats such as maritime security, migration, and critical mineral supply chains.
We take seriously the words of the President of the United States, and certainly I have spoken with Secretary Rubio frequently, including on Monday, and he will be here at the G7 foreign ministers. At the same time, we agree that nuclear non-proliferation must be a priority. We agree that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open. This is the very tenor of the law of the sea and the UN Convention and customary international law in that respect.
As global conflicts and economic uncertainties persist, the G7 is seeking to project unity and leadership through coordinated action. With participation from emerging partners like India, the meeting reflects a broader push to make global governance more inclusive and responsive. Under the French presidency, discussions in Paris are expected to shape the agenda for upcoming G7 engagements later this year. With inputs from Rohini Gosadi, Diptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
And India slammed Pakistan over systematic victimization of minorities. Reacting to media reports on the issue, spokesperson of India's Ministry of External Affairs, Ranveer Jaiswal, termed such reports to be testifying to the fact of abysmal record of Pakistan when it comes to protecting human rights of minorities.
Such comments are not isolated incidents, but are part of Pakistan's systematic or systemic victimization of its minorities, including the Shia minority in that country. The shrinking numbers of minorities in Pakistan over several decades reflect the kind of fear, persecution, oppression and neglect that they have had to endure at the hands of the Pakistani state. I need not elaborate on the abysmal record of Pakistan when it comes to protection of human rights of its minorities, which is also very well documented.
Myanmar's military is set for a leadership reshuffle after its Armed Forces Day parade on Friday. The move comes just days before Parliament meets to begin the process of choosing a new president. Military Chief Min Aung Hlaing is expected to take over as president after an election won by an army-backed party. The move signals a continued military-led political system in the country. Myanmar remains in crisis with a civil war ongoing since the 2021 coup that removed Aung San Suu Kyi's government. Min Aung Hlaing has not yet named a successor as the country moves towards this transition. Let's now take you back to the top of our show with a breaking news coming in on the PM's meeting with chief ministers. Well, he's concluded that meeting, and it was all about the preparedness in light of emerging situation in West Asia related to the West Asia crisis. The PM has expressed confidence that working together as Team India, the nation will successfully overcome the situation. He's also stressed with the chief ministers that the government's priorities are to maintain economic and trade stability, ensure energy security, safeguard the interests of citizens and strengthen industry and supply chains. The PM has also urged states to ensure smooth functioning of supply chains and take strict measures against hoarding and profiteering. He's added stress on the need for advanced planning in the agriculture sector, particularly in monitoring fertilizer storage and distribution. He's also emphasized the need for robust coordination mechanisms at all levels to enable quick response to evolving situations. He's also called for special attention in border and coastal states to address emerging challenges related to shipping, essential supplies and maritime operations. Further, the PM's cautioned against the spread of misinformation and rumors, emphasizing dissemination of accurate and credible information. It's also been said about the meeting and that CMs have appreciated the steps taken by the central government under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi to tackle this situation. They've also welcomed the decision by the central government to reduce excise duty on fuel amid global uncertainties and increase in commercial LPG allocation to states. The CMs have expressed confidence that the situation remains stable with adequate availability of petrol, diesel and LPG in their states. They've also reaffirmed the commitment to work in close coordination with the centre to effectively manage this situation. So that's the latest that's coming in from the Prime Minister's video call meeting with different chief ministers. Let's get you more on this. We're joined by DD India's Akhilesh Suman, who was tracking that meeting. Akhilesh, a clear-cut message then given out by the Prime Minister, endorsed by the CMs on how to handle this situation emerging out of the West Asia conflict, where it comes to managing the situation within the country.
Yeah, really, Gautam, we have got some details about the Prime Minister's meeting with the Chief Ministers and Lieutenant Governors of Union Territories of the non-pole-bound states. And I think that what is most important that everyone, appreciated that, steps taken by a central government as far as, that crisis emanated out of Iran war. And in that way, Prime Minister also, recalled that how the whole country responded in the time of COVID-19 pandemic as Team India. And this is another type of crisis, and in which, all states need to come together and centers should work with the states. I think that way, the meet out the challenges posed by the conflict in West Asia. And I think that CMs had a good meeting. The CMs asked some questions, and Prime Minister responded to it about that availability of petrol, diesel, and LPG. And the Prime Minister also told them that check the panic-creating people, take stern action against those who are trying to create panic, and also, discourage the intentions of hoarding and black marketing in this situation. So I think it is a good message given by Prime Minister and Chief Ministers of states. And as we have been talking earlier, Gautam, that the Chief Ministers of opposition states have also, we are also present in the meeting, and everyone gave a very positive, comments about the whole situation, and they also appreciated that the way Centre has coordinated with international community, different stakeholders, and also various countries and countries in West Asia, including Iran, Israel, and USA. I think it is very good situation as far as cooperation among chief ministers and prime minister, central government is concerned. And I think that the crisis may take some time, but the type of cooperation like we see that Team India, Team Country, that beyond politics, beyond party division, as far as, meeting the challenge is concerned, it's very positive feedback we are getting from the meeting that took place just
right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Akhilesh, with the latest on the PM's meeting with the chief ministers. We're also joined by Amritpal Singh, my colleague, DD India's Amritpal Singh, for more on this. Amrit, apart from addressing the current situation, it was forward-looking as well, because the PM talked about advanced planning in the agriculture sector. He also talked about special attention to border and coastal areas as well to address emerging challenges. So clearly, he expects that this needs to be looked at as well. Amrit, can you hear me? I was just asking about how there was forward planning involved in this meeting as well, apart from addressing the ongoing current situation. Excuse me.
Hello.
Yes, Amrit, go ahead. I was just asking you about how this meeting was also about forward planning in terms of the needs of the agriculture sector, and also responding to the situation as far as coastal areas and coastal states are concerned.
That's right. With the Kharif season around the corner, the government is understandably worried about fertilizers and the smooth flow of fertilizers to the farmer, the storage of it, the distribution of it, and this concern was raised in this meeting between the chief ministers, the lieutenant governors, and the prime minister. And the prime minister basically stressed on effective distribution and storage so that the agriculture sector is not affected, because that would affect food security directly. So that was a concern raised. The other, as you about which you asked about the prime minister talking about the coastal states, because increasingly as India negotiates with Iran, it is expected that more ships carrying both energy supplies in terms of crude and LPG and natural gas supplies would be coming into India. So at various port facilities. So to ensure that these port facilities are not overstressed, there is effective distribution, the rebirthing of energy supplies in a more efficient manner. So this issue came up for discussion between the participants, that's the Prime Minister, the Lieutenant Governors, and the Chief Ministers who participated in this meeting.
Yes, certainly there were challenges in border and coastal states as well that was discussed, because emerging challenges need to be addressed where shipping, essential supplies and maritime operations are concerned. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Amritpal Singh. Now let's talk about this further. We're joined about this situation in West Asia. To talk about it, we're joined by our expert guests. We have with us Dipanjan Roy Chaudhary, Foreign Affairs Editor at the Economic Times, and we also have Shishir Sinha, Senior Economic Journalist. Shishir, first to you. The government's response to this current situation, very forward-looking as well, apart from addressing how it is playing out at the moment and keeping pump prices steady. A big part of what the government has done today, but there's so many other things that the government is moving. It's keeping tabs on and taking decisions on a daily, moment-to-moment basis, and keeping ahead of the situation as well.
Let us talk about the fuel duty revision. There are two components to that. One is, of course, the one component of central excise duty basket that has been lowered. So what does it mean? If you take the current duty structure of petrol and diesel, there are four components of central excise. One is called basic excise duty. The another one is called special additional excise duty. Then we have the agriculture, infrastructure and development cess. And then we have the road and infrastructure cess. What the finance ministry has done after PM had a meeting on Thursday, that they have reduced the special additional excise duty by 10 rupees on petrol as well as on diesel. Now, the excise duty on petrol will now be 11 rupees 90 paise, and on diesel it will be rupees 7 rupees and 80 paise. At the same time, they have also hiked some duty, what we call as the windfall gain tax. So that on export bound diesel and ATF. So entire thing has been done to provide some kind of comfort to oil marketing companies, which suffered a loss of around 2,400 crore rupees because of keeping the petrol pump prices unchanged. So now they will be in a position, and we should remember that if they are in a loss or if they do not have the currency money, then there will be problem on purchasing the crude oil. So this is the basic philosophy behind the duty revision. Also, at the same time, you just rightly mentioned about the meetings between the Prime Minister and the states and the Union Territory. One thing is specifically mentioned about the profiteering and hoarding. Now, the problem is too much speculations, too much rumors, too many rumors are going on. How to check that? It is the state government, I mean, what you can say, it's fall into the state government domain to
Yes.
check this kind of thing. So, on the one hand, you have lowered the duty so that oil marketing companies are in a better position. At the same time, you are trying to control the hoarding and the profiteering. The combination of these two will help the common man to get the fuel at an affordable rate.
Right, and at the same time, the government is trying to address the situation diplomatically as well. Dipanjan Roy Chaudhary, what is your perspective? It's been 4 weeks of this conflict that's been going on in West Asia, and it seems that it's just a test of resilience. That's a phrase that has entered the lexicon of foreign policies of different governments as well, and it's all a matter of who gets the maximum number of marks where the test of resilience is concerned. And how do you rank India there?
I think the government of India, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has handled it very well. I mean, we have been had done some deft diplomatic handling of this crisis while engaging a number of times with the leaders of the Gulf. The Prime Minister also spoke to the President of Iran twice. The last conversation was very extensive when he also extended the Nowruz and Eid greetings, but also discussed the situation in the region, particularly with the navigation of the Hormuz Straits. And Dr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, has been engaged extensively with his Iranian counterpart as well as his counterparts from the Gulf. But I would like to mention the Iranian counterpart because of the navigation factor through the Strait of Hormuz. And if you see, India has been one of those friendly countries which has been mentioned by Iran, whose cargoes, whose tankers are allowed. And so far, 4 LNG tankers have been allowed, apart from other tankers, through the Strait of Hormuz. Compared to, of course, the Iran's position vis-a-vis the countries of the West, and particularly the US and its allies and Europe, I think India is much is better placed. And even in Asia, I think we were the first mover to handle this because the requirements are bigger than many of the countries in Asia. Of course, some of the countries in East Asia are in terms of development are one is a member of G7 and another is part of is a developed economy, which is South Korea. I mean, their planning is a different level. But if you look at the rest of Asia, I think India has played its card well, played it smartly, played it deftly, and simultaneously also reviving some of its energy links with Russia. Got a waiver from the US for 30-day sanctions waiver for the crude oil, but simultaneously reviving the 20-year-old deal with Gazprom, which had to be put on the back burner during the after the Ukraine war started. So that's being revived, and India is also doing or buying LPG from Russia from the tankers. Simultaneously, Argentina has been quite helpful in terms of supplying of LPG to India. So that's a find which since last year, and the volumes are only going to rise from this Latin American country. The oil exports from Brazil, Colombia, Mexico are also going to see a rise. So will be Angola in southwestern Africa, Nigeria, and I presume from Algeria as well. So the ports of Saudi Arabia, which are in Red Sea, I think that is a safe bet to get the crude out. And as the government announced yesterday, that India is quite reasonably placed for the next
Yes,
couple
the
of.
phrase that the government has used, and we're putting it out in our graphic as well, oasis of energy security. Shishir, do you feel that that is something that the government is living up to, and at the same time taking the hit for the people as well, where foregoing revenue is concerned? Because there is, of course, added duty on export of fuels, but it may not cover up in terms of what the government will lose in revenue terms.
If you take the overall revenue hit because of the duty revision, that's at 7,000 crore. And if you talk about the export levy, that will give you 1,500 crores. So net loss will still be there for 5,500 crore rupees just for a fortnight.
Yes.
So if you take, say, for 3 months, 6 month kind of thing, you can easily imagine that what kind of revenue hit we are going to have that. Now, at the same time, we have to diversify. So, some time back, we were talking about taking the energy from limited number of countries. If I can remember correctly, the number of countries from which we were importing, that number was 24. Now we have 41. And that is going to help in a bigger way because now we have alternative available also. I mean, we cannot deny the significance or the importance of Hormuz because almost 90% of our CNG requirement and 60% of our crude that is coming from that route. But if we are able to diversify even say 10% or 20% or 30% of that particular thing from the alternative route, that is going to help in a bigger way. So at this moment, the focus is on the energy security and at the same time, affordability of energy security because please remember the crude oil prices are much, much higher. And if you take the Indian basket of crude, it has exceeded $160 a barrel. So that is going to hurt the oil marketing companies. They have suffered a loss of 2,400 crore rupees in just one fortnight, 1 month because of this selling crude, petrol and diesel at the same time which they were doing before February 28th. So if we have to provide some kind of comfort to the oil marketing companies, we need to give some headroom, and at the same time we also have to look for the alternative, and that is possible to the what we call as the G2G, which is the government to government relation, and that is working at this moment in our favor.
All right, and the Panchan, in terms of how this crisis is going, this conflict is going, it's been 4 weeks already. Initiatives have been taken to ensure that there is some sort of a truce or a peace deal, but that hasn't worked out yet, so it might extend further this particular crisis. Do you feel that the way the government has handled the situation so far, the emerging challenges as well, be it in essential supplies, fertilizers has been mentioned, agriculture sector has been mentioned by the PM in this meeting with the chief ministers, the government will be abreast with tackling that situation as well, will be successful in handling it as well in terms of ensuring that we have alternatives in place?
Yes, absolutely. I think the government is in talks with various countries, including with the US and Canada as well. Because US is the world's biggest producer of crude petroleum. They have big deposits of gas which have supplied to Europe, and also after the Canadian PM's visit, there are moves to tap into the LNG and the LPG from Canada. I also hear that Norway is being approached for the supplies of LNG because there are big deposits in Norway. Of course, they are stretched. I think every such producer will be stretched because the consumers, because many of the Asian countries were dependent on West Asian supplies, and that has been hit. So every producer will be under tremendous stretch, and we find that some of them are also introducing measures to first protect their own domestic interests before agreeing on to additional export supplies and commitments. One only hopes that President Trump's 7-day extension of these of the non-strikes on the power plants that he has mentioned, and he said there's been tremendous progress made in the talks. One hopes that there is some kind of progress in that, which can bring down the tensions the immediate tensions. And I think the Gulf Cooperation Council should also try and work out some kind of an arrangement, or they should directly also talk to Iran, because it's their neighbor, and see what kind of guarantees they can get. Because the longer this conflict extends, the revenues of all the 6 countries, or of particularly 5 countries, are going to be hit. Oman, of course, maintains neutrality and has not been attacked apart from 2 attacks. Qatar, it appears that has come to some kind of understanding with Iran, but to me, the others seem still vulnerable. Saudi Arabia, of course, is the biggest state in the region and has the geographic advantage at the depth to probably withstand. But I would say that Kuwait and UAE and Bahrain are particularly vulnerable. So yes. I think Iran and see geography, nobody is going to leave this geography, right? And as mentioned by the foreign minister the spokesperson of the Qatar foreign ministry, I heard. I mean, I'm just quoting it. But
yes, let's hope that each of these involved parties give each other some breathing space. It hasn't happened yet where Israel and Iran are concerned, but let's hope for the best, that there is a breather and things get worked out, and we don't have to forward plan for an extension of this conflict and the crisis. Thanks a lot for joining us, gentlemen, both Shishir as well as Dipanjan, to talk about this, raging subject, really. Now, in a big boost to India's defence sector, Defence Acquisition Council, chaired by India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, has granted acceptance of necessity for various proposals worth an estimated 2.38 lakh crore rupees, or about $25 billion US. For the Indian Army, approval has been accorded for the air defence tracked system, armoured-piercing tank ammunition, high-capacity radio relay, Dhanush gun system and runway-independent aerial surveillance system. The air defence tracked system will provide real-time air defence control and reporting capability, while the high-capacity radio relay will provide reliable and fail-proof communication. For the Indian Air Force, proposals have been cleared for the procurement of medium transport aircraft, S-400 long-range surface-to-air missile system, remotely piloted strike aircraft, and overhaul of Su-30 aero engine aggregates. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, while presenting the finance bill in the Rajya Sabha on Friday, said reform momentum remains strong, aiming to make India an economically vibrant nation. She emphasized inclusivity, ensuring all sections of society benefit from an opening economy. Listen in.
The momentum on reforms has not come down at all. The finance bill also has elements of this reforms being pushed because we want India to be a lot more economically vibrant country. So that reform express is what guided us to bring in very many elements into the finance bill so that it reflects the mood of the nation. The guiding principle has been inclusivity, and we have made sure that every section gets to benefit from an opening economy.
India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, meanwhile, addressed the WTO MC14 ministerial breakout session on decision-making in past mandates and shared India's perspectives on strengthening global trade governance. Minister Goyal emphasized that rebuilding trust is essential to revitalizing consensus-driven decision-making, which is non-negotiable and bedrock of WTO. The minister underlined the importance of undertaking a comprehensive and constructive stocktake of the present impasse, with a focus on understanding the underlying causes, while ensuring that discussions remain transparent, inclusive and member-driven. Now, Delhi NCR is all set to get a brand new international airport on Saturday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate Phase 1 of Noida International Airport in Jewar, Uttar Pradesh. The next report by Akshay Dongre shows how the new airport will be a game-changer in regional development and global connectivity.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Uttar Pradesh on the 28th of March to inaugurate Phase 1 of Noida International Airport. The airport represents a key milestone in strengthening India's aviation infrastructure.
Well, this airport is very special to me because I've been working on this project along with many employees, colleagues and partners for over 5 years to make it happen. And now we're just over the moon that the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Chief Minister here to join us to inaugurate.
Noida International Airport is among the largest greenfield airport projects in India. Phase 1 of the airport has been developed at a total investment of around 11,200 crore rupees under PPP model over 1,334 hectares of land. The airport will initially have a passenger handling capacity of 12 million passengers per annum, with scalability up to 70 million passengers per annum upon full development. It features a 3,900-meter runway capable of handling wide-body aircraft, modern navigation systems to support all-weather, round-the-clock operations. The cargo facility is designed to handle over 2.5 lakh metric tons annually, expandable to around 18 lakh metric tons. Includes a dedicated 40-acre maintenance, repair and overhaul facility.
This will be a landmark, definitely a landmark, because it will not only cater to UP, but also to the neighboring states, the whole of NCR, Haryana, Rajasthan, Punjab, J&K, Himachal. It will not only be transformative in terms of passenger traffic, but also it will be a logistic hub, it will be an export hub, and it is one of the ideal showcase of PM Gati Shakti.
Strategically located along the Yamuna Expressway, the airport is designed as a sustainable and future-ready infrastructure project. On the occasion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also address a public gathering.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates the Noida International Airport, this will be the second international airport in Delhi NCR region and will work along with the Delhi International Airport as an integrated aviation system that will help not only in decongestion of air traffic, but also in expanding of the passenger capacity of these two airports that will strengthen India's position as a global aviation hub. In Jewar, Uttar Pradesh, with camera person Srinivas Nagar, Amakshi Dongre, DD India.
Now, the Delhi Tourism and Transportation Development Corporation has signed a memorandum of understanding with Prasar Bharati on Friday during the Sankalp Industry Roundtable at the International Film Festival, Delhi, that is IFFD 2026. The MOU aims to promote cinematic tourism in Delhi and streamline filmmaking process in the national capital. Discussions were also held between industry veterans and the Delhi government on the Delhi film policy and animation, visual effects, gaming and comics, as well as ABGC policy. This roundtable was organized by the Media and Entertainment Skills Council, the MESC, and the Indian Institute of Creative Skills. The session was graced by Delhi Culture and Arts Minister Kapil Mishra, who emphasized the importance of strengthening Delhi's position as a hub for cultural and creative industries. Other distinguished speakers included Sunil Anchipaka, Managing Director and CEO, DTTDC, Festival Directors Rakesh Prakash Mehra and Bani Tripathi Tikku, Sandeep Marwa, Founder, AAFT University, Rajiv Roy, Member Finance, Prasar Bharati, and Bamin Irani, actor and filmmaker. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.